Welcome to the More Than Dis podcast, where we dive into conversations with good friends to bring us out of our stress, away from our to-dos, and out of our head. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. It's great to have you. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review to help others find out about the show. With that out of the way, let's jump right in.
We've met. How long has it been since we met?
Back at the Spanish Mass, so that was like 8
No.
years ago, probably
8? No.
Maybe 7.
No. It's like 6. It's
Okay,
6.
we'll
Let's do 6. 6
Okay.
years. No, I remember. So obviously you're blonde, blue-eyed.
Right.
So we were there in Spanish Mass, and then you just go up and read, and I was like shocked because I didn't like, we didn't know each other back then, and you, like I said, I'm not kidding, you read so beautifully, and I was like, what? Like, am I hallucinating here? Or? No, and then we come to find out that you just traveled everywhere.
Yeah, and that was, you're right, because that was after I lived in Spain. So after I graduated, then I came back, and then they started the Spanish Mass, so that's when I started going.
And
so
you're
right, though.
So wait, so you lived in Spain for how long?
For like 9 months, like a school year. I was teaching English in the high school there, like as an assistant, not really a teacher, but
Whoa.
yeah.
How was that?
It was super good. Yeah, it was. I mean, that's really where I learned the most Spanish. Like, was just having to live, because I lived in not in like a village, but like a smaller town. So it was there weren't really any English speakers. There were 2 Canadians that showed up one time, and I remember that really well because I like stopped them on the street and just had a conversation in English. But yeah, it was a good growing experience.
Yeah, for 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Have you always had like this kind of knack for, I guess, like being in the unknown, or like, I don't know, like what kind of prompted that in you?
I think, not totally. I think after, yes. But before that, I went because I didn't know. I majored in biology and Spanish, and I didn't want to do biology, and I didn't have like a Spanish ed degree or anything that I could really see going forward with that. So somebody came to my Spanish class to talk about like, oh, I went and did this abroad program where I taught abroad and lived abroad, and I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm gonna go do that for a year and figure it out.
Yeah. So wait, you majored in biology too?
Yeah. I don't do that anymore.
No,
but I have a major in it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I feel like your personality. I feel like you'd be a great teacher, just from how you are.
Yeah, and I didn't. So my mom was a teacher. I didn't want to be like just like my mom. So I
like how you whisper that.
Yeah,
just like
I love my mom, but I didn't want to be a teacher like my mom.
Yeah.
And then I realized, like, teaching in Spain, that I actually love teaching. And,
right.
You know, so then I was like, okay, you know, I could do this like my mom does, and because not that my mom does great work, but all of the women in my family are teachers, so I just kind of wanted to, you know, branch out a little bit. But it's what I love doing. So
were they? And that's funny. I didn't know that all the women in your family were teachers.
Yeah, teachers or nurses is kind of
the go-to for the McCoys.
Yeah, and I tried being something else, and nope.
It was meant to be. It's part of your nature. It's in you. It's a teacher or nurse.
Yeah.
Were they like? Were they pretty happy then when you decided to be a teacher? Were they like, hooray?
I think so, yeah, because it was, you know, one or the other camp, and the teacher camp got another one, so, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's funny. So, you went to Spain, you came back. Mm-hmm. How was it kind of readjusting to, I've never been to Spain, but I imagine it's completely different than here, obviously. How was it for you kind of adjusting back?
Yeah, like, Spain is way more relaxed than the United States. It's, like, it's a slower moving culture, and they like it that way. You know, like, when you go to dinner, there's always, like, the sobremesa, and you just sit, and you eat, you know, talk for hours after you're done eating, and they just expect that at the restaurants, and...
Really?
Yeah, it's so nice. You have, like, the siesta every day.
I've heard about that. That's one of the things that I've heard about in Spain. Yeah?
I would go, like, I'd be done with work at, like, 2, go home, eat lunch, take a nap. All the stores would close, so you're expected to do this siesta, and then... wake up at like 4 and go back out, and then you're up late because you've already taken a nap in the middle of the day, and it's just nice.
Do they have a great nightlife then? Since everyone's like reawakened, like recharged after the siesta.
Mm-hmm. I could not keep up with the nightlife. I was too tired.
Really?
Yeah, but I had one experience I explained to my students, that in the United States, if you're under 18, you have a curfew.
Right.
There wasn't even a word that they understood for that. And they had to use like toque de queda, and they're like, that's like a military term. We don't even have a term for curfew. And I was like, oh, that's strange.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like in Mexico. Now I'm kind of curious actually.
Yeah.
Curfew, nothing like out of the. I'm sure there might be one, but
yeah,
not one that I used commonly.
Well, and it's so funny now. I read the Spanish newspapers and they're using it now, but it refers to like a lockdown for the pandemic.
Right, for COVID.
Yeah, for COVID.
Wow,
so it's even then, it's like a lockdown. So not a normal thing.
Not a normal curfew like it is here.
No.
Wow, man. So Nabs. What else was one of the things that like would you ever go back to Spain like to live maybe for a long period of time like that, or are you looking to go to other countries maybe, or?
Yeah, I would go back to Spain. I think so. I could see myself teaching again there. I think that'd be fun. The education structure is really different, and that like in their high schools, for example, they don't have as many like elective choices or whatever. It's like 3 strict paths. So once you hit sophomore year here, you're basically done with high school. So you can actually be done once you're done with that. But the junior and senior year are like your bachillerato. Mm-hmm. And so you have like a course for like English, a course for maths, and a course for arts. And the arts is kind of like, unfortunately, looked down on as like the kind of the dumb kids, which it's not. It's just the creative kids that, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a common theme even here in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
I mean, it might just be how it is, but that's interesting.
Yeah, and then the other two are definitely harder to get into, and then they have like a kind of like the version of a trade school. If you don't want to go to any of those 3 courses, you can go to trade school.
Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I know Mexico's a little bit different as well, but I don't know too much about it. But yeah, I know it's kind of, I think from what I've heard, it's somewhat closer to how it is in Spain.
Yeah.
One of the things that when we first met, you did have the Spanish accent when you spoke, or at least like a hint of it, like you could tell.
Yeah.
Now I think that when I've heard you last, you kind of, I mean, obviously you still speak Spanish, but I think it's become more neutral, I guess you could say, and not like with that heavy the th sounds as we would know it here in the US. Yeah, was that heartbreaking or?
A little bit. I mean, it's hard to hold on to it because you just kind of pick up the accent of whoever you hear around you.
Yeah.
So I think, like most of my friends in Idaho are, Mexican or South Latin American or whatever, not Spanish. And I did used to work with more Spaniards, but not anymore. So it's like I don't hear that accent as much. So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because it's exactly like you're saying. Like, it'd be weird. Well, not necessarily weird, but it'd be weird, like, if you... I don't know, if you just brought up like a random accent, like just because, like if it's out of context or something, like I don't know, but yeah, that makes total sense. What was the last place that you traveled to?
I went to Colombia.
Oh man, so talk about accents. Their accent is a little bit different than most of Latin. Well, every Latin American country accent is different though. Actually, I take that back. Yeah,
Colombia's a little harder to get my brain around sometimes.
Really? Mm-hmm. How come?
I think just the letters they leave out. Sometimes it takes me a minute to like adjust. It's like hearing a Scottish accent if you speak English and you're like, okay, wait, brain, like, and you kind of like have to take a minute.
You're like something was missing there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
Yeah.
Man.
Like, yeah, it depends on which country too.
Did you go just to sites? It was like a quick vacation, right?
Yeah.
Like type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Just a week. Really short.
How was let's see, I'm trying to think. Colombia. Was the food different from like, well, of course, like Spain and Colombia are different countries, right? Was there like a main difference, like the type of spices that they use or anything of those sorts? Or
Yeah, I mean, I guess the part of Spain I was in was really landlocked, so not a lot of shellfish or seafood or anything. But obviously Colombia has like Cartagena, and it's full of like shellfish, which I cannot eat because I'm allergic to it. So I kind of ate like, I think it's called paisana, but that doesn't, something like that. That was more like steaky and
not selfishly.
Yeah, not so I didn't get to eat any of like the stuff that Colombia is like renowned for.
Yeah.
Like a ceviche. So
dang.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, another thing that I admire about you is that you kickbox.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? That's so badass, and you're really good at it. Like from your post that I see
from my Facebook,
from
Instagram
your
profile.
yeah. Well, and then I remember like also the so we did I should say you did a talent show.
Oh yeah.
And you did kind of like this wacky character, kind of like a trainer.
Yeah.
And you just went up there and like taught a class essentially.
Yeah.
That was the best. And you won. So congratulations.
Oh yeah. I ate all those goldfish.
Yeah. You're technically still the reigning champion.
That's right.
Because there wasn't any this year. So
Coronavirus.
hey, 2 years, that's not bad.
No, yeah.
But how's that process for you? Just going into kickboxing, because was it intimidating for you or?
A little bit. Like I always wanted to do some kind of martial art when I was younger, but it was a challenge. Like I did Kendo. Yeah, that's what it's called, Kendo, which is like a Japanese sword fighting thing back when I was in high school. And it was really fun, but I could not do it. So it was like. It was in the gym at the Y, and I really tried, but my legs just wouldn't quite do it.
Yeah, it
was a challenge, and I'm a pretty like I like to look like I got everything together kind of person. That's a teacher's personality too. So it was a real challenge because I couldn't really physically do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're supposed to like slide, you're supposed to slide and like glide across the floor.
Is it like a dance type of thing as well, or like
it's
just a fluid movement?
Super fluid.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not like the practice of it is kind of like if you imagine like the moves in karate that are really scripted. This is moves with like fake swords, right? So we have bamboo swords.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks really, really cool.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's super awesome. It's the same. It's like samurai training.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you can see why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, you're like ninja teacher nurse.
And you get cool outfits and the swords. Yeah. I still have the outfit and the swords, I think.
There you go.
Yeah. But it's like you have to glide, and I could not for the life of me glide across the floor. And then you have to keep your like left foot like planted and straight, and I could not do that. It would just like zigzag.
Yeah.
And then I have just really thin, like the sole of my foot is really like thin.
Right. Yeah. So, we were talking about that.
Yeah. So it gets really like beat up pretty quickly.
Well, I can imagine that. Probably that didn't help you with the gliding.
No.
Yeah, man. So yeah, my feet are like hypersensitive too. Mm-hmm. I can barely stand walking around like barefoot.
Yeah.
It just sends like so much sensation that it just drives me insane. Like it's pretty terrible. So I don't know if that's similar to what you feel or if it's just painful or.
Well, okay. Here's the problem. I can't feel the left foot. So if something's going on with my left foot, which it always usually is, I don't know until like it's too late.
You're like, whoops.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So I would hurt myself, without realizing it.
Right.
And then kind of like the fallout of that, So.
Oh man.
It didn't happen as bad, but I couldn't do this gliding on the gym floor, and it's a gym floor. I mean, like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, yeah.
Probably I should have worn a sock.
They were trying to sabotage you.
Yeah, like the YMCA basketball court is not a place for gliding. Like, it's ridiculous. But anyway.
Oh man. So how so going from kendo to kickboxing, how is that different for you?
Yeah, so it's they have mats. That's number one, and that was huge. And then also I think like the movements are like. The balance is still super important, which is still like definitely a struggle, but you can still like work your way around it. As they're like, I don't know, there are ways to adjust the movements in kickboxing. Whereas Kendo is like an art form, so it's like this very set Japanese tradition.
Right.
which is really cool. But, like tradition is set.
Right.
And in kickboxing, luckily, like I have good instructors and they've been kind of able to, if I needed an adjustment, they were able to make it. Like I was trying to do like a right roundhouse, and you kind of have to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Sorry, finish.
No.
I'm already excited. Sorry. I like instantly pictured like Bruce Lee or like Jean-Claude Van Damme or so like those martial artists. So I pictured you in there like doing that.
Yeah.
And sorry, I got excited. Anyway, finish.
No. But so you have to kind of like, you have to get up on your toes and then you have to turn your foot, which I can't do. So, but the problem is if you don't turn your foot, you can hurt your knee. Yeah. So we kind of like, I had to work with one of the instructors to kind of adjust and now I can kind of hop a little bit. So it kind of turns.
Okay.
But initially, obviously I don't want to wrench out my knee.
Yeah.
So,
oh God. Even saying that made me like, yeah. That did not.
No, it's not. So, like, the way that I kind of had to turn on my foot was different, and then kind of, like, the leaning and everything. So, I think that was one of the biggest differences, too, was that back in Kendo, I didn't really want to talk about, like, hey, my leg can't do this or this or this, because I was kind of embarrassed. And I think at that point, I was still wearing a leg brace, so it was kind of like the one place, like, my AFO, I didn't put my AFO on. I didn't, show my AFO.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of trying to keep all that hidden, but of course, it backfired. And so now that I'm 30 and an adult, I'm a little bit more like, I don't care. I'm just going to tell you what I need. And, help me work around it. Yeah. As long as you're disposed, like open to, people working with you, I think most people usually are, right? Like as far as instructors and, obviously I don't, I'm still, trying to dip my toe, like doing martial arts is something that I would like to do, like jiu-jitsu or something like that. But that's like, I don't know, that's like a pipe dream so far. No, but yeah, like even from my experiences at the gym, like people are more than willing to work with you if you're honest. Oh, yeah. So, man, that is so cool. So right now with the Rona, you have, we talked about how you haven't been able to do kickboxing, right? Yeah, so I can't go to the gym. I just don't. I mean, I'm a teacher, so I am around germy children all day, and even with the masks, I'm like, be cautious for the other people at the gym, not so much for myself, because I feel like I'm around it all the time. But I did buy myself a bag, and so my gym has been really accommodating in that they have like live streams of all the classes. So you can just join in on a live stream and do it.
Oh, so you are doing that? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 5:30 in the morning getting up and doing it. It's kind of fun.
Oh, 5:30?
5:30.
Good for you.
It wakes me up.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to wake up.
Yeah. It's cold out right now, so my bag's outside. I don't know how long I can do it. Yeah. But in the summer, it was great. It was like, it's like 60 degrees at 5:30. Perfect.
Yeah. You're out there like in a snowstorm. You're just like, you gotta keep up with it, Julia. I mean, there's
can't lose it.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, hopefully, I mean, here's hoping the Rona comes down a little bit, so everything can go back to somewhat normal.
Yeah, it would be nice.
Yeah. One of the things as well that always makes me laugh about you is hearing your experiences in the classroom and some of the things that you remind me what grades you teach.
I teach 6th and 8th grade this year.
6th and 8th grade. Yeah, some of the things that you mentioned that the students say.
Oh my gosh.
Well, first of all, how has it been during this time? And then second of all, let's just go with that. How has it been teaching in the first place during this time?
It's crazy. And I won't go into certain details that might be a little bit like, West Ada did some things. Lately. But, it's been really challenging. And luckily, I did most of my stuff online last year. So
look at you.
Yeah, like I wanted to go paperless, like, because I lose papers constantly. A little bit, the ADD brain going on there, and I just constantly.
When you used to give me rides, they're
all scattered.
You're like, oh, sorry. I'm like, it's just somebody's assignment. It's fine.
I'm grading that eventually. Yeah, I can't do it anymore, so I stopped. I stopped using paper last year. I got really close. This year, because of coronavirus, I'm like 100% paperless.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit less stressed, I think, than other teachers are. And then I work at an alternative school, so I have a smaller classroom size than an average teacher. So I think that's been helping too.
How have you kept the kids engaged?
Online.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have a good answer for that. We've been doing the same thing every day at home that way because they're just
So
not
they
doing
can
the
get
at-home
into
stuff.
routine. They're not.
They're not. I mean, some of them are. But maybe it's like 5. Whereas in a normal year, I'd have way more participation.
Right.
But I still assign them stuff when they're at home because that's a whole day of lessons that we'd lose otherwise. So I don't know. I haven't figured out a good solution. Maybe if you're all online, but we're like hybrid. So I got half of my kids at home, half online. Or excuse me, half in the classroom, half online.
Mm-hmm.
So I do feel like the half that's at home is losing a little bit.
Huh.
But
I thought they would switch.
They do switch, yeah.
But you're saying like the group that stays at home just loses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man, it's such a hard compromise, I bet, right? I mean, for you guys as teachers and for parents as well. Yeah. It's just a tough time. And I mean, not to mention for the students, they're probably like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like pretending that there is no Rona. How has what's been your favorite thing about being a teacher? Knowing that kind of wasn't your kind of set path that you what have been the happy surprises and maybe not so happy surprises?
I think the happiest is probably just getting to challenge the kids not challenge argue with, but challenge help them grow and help them learn new stuff. And we really dig deep into some topics that we talked a lot about refugees and immigration last year, and this year we're going to do a big unit based around the boy who harnessed the wind and talk about environmental responsibility and different the civil rights movement. And so because I teach English, I kind of can bring in a bunch of different
current event type of things. That's so interesting. So you mentioned 2 things that I kind of want to touch on. How do you challenge your kids without either coddling them or maybe pushing them too much? How do you find that balance for you?
So it's definitely easier with 8th grade. 6th grade is they're still little babies at the beginning of the year, so it's pushing them is a little bit more delicate of a process,
right?
So I do offer them more help than I would give my 8th graders, but I try to be really encouraging and point out when they've done something hard. We just finished an essay, and we use the 7 habits at our school. So we talked a lot about beginning with the end in mind as they were planning out their essay, because it was basically the whole essay when they were done, and they realized, oh my gosh, I'm already done, with my first essay. So using that, and then, just saying, when a kid tells me this is hard, yep, this is, but you got it. And then kind of try to find the balance between offering help and walking away,
letting them struggle a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. And then, oh man, you also mentioned something about, just with you bringing these different, areas of cultural, whatever's happening in the culture, how do you, I guess, is there a line that you're especially how kind of politicized things that everything is, what's the line that you have, or that you kind of use to still bring up the topics but not necessarily either push one way or the other, because I imagine that's a hard thing to do.
And I so right up front, especially when we talked about refugees, because I've worked with a lot of refugee students before teaching where I'm at, I always honestly start telling the kids I am biased.
And really? You're upfront?
Yeah. I'm upfront. I just say, this is how I'm biased. This is why I'm biased, this direction, and then for the most part, when they realize, what refugees are, they don't seem to have too many issues with trying to comprehend that. Now, this year might be different. It's a different year.
It's a different,
yeah. But I try to bring up a lot of primary sources. We watch a lot of videos. We'll discuss short articles, or poetry or whatever from those sources. And there's some pretty powerful stuff that I've been able to find over the last couple of years to bring into the kids, and just really getting to know what is a refugee? What is that really, and what do we mean? Right. Let me say that. And some of my stuff does get a little bit I have had students kind of push back, and that's fine. I think that's important for. But I think that well, and again, last year was kind of my example because we ended early, but I think that what was happening at the end of the year is kind of the students see that I'm going to take their questions seriously, so they're okay with like bringing up their
pushing back, and that's so healthy.
Yeah,
that's like such a healthy thing for the students to feel comfortable, even if they may disagree with something you say, or having the confidence to even disagree with you. Which disagreeing with your teacher isn't an easy thing, right? No. The fact that you kind of leave that open, I think, is huge, especially as they're growing.
Yeah.
So yeah, props to you, man. That can't be easy sometimes, though.
Yeah, sometimes it definitely does get a little bit more, like, I think we've had to have some conversations about racist comments, too, and, like, overtly in the classroom. So it goes the opposite direction, too. But,
right.
But there's, like, a point when, they and I will not argue past. It's no longer an argument. It's just but then, that also opened the door to, I had a student who asked me the other year, I guess it was last year. Yeah. He was writing a paper about a hunting trip he took in Africa, and he wrote something that was, it's like no good. But he had gone with his grandfather, and clearly his grandfather had said some things.
Right.
And he asked me, he's like, wait, Miss McCoy, is this racist what I wrote here? I was like, okay, well, yes, let's talk about it. And he actually was able to ask, and we had a good conversation about like colonialism and all that, and it was good because he had put something pretty egregious. But
oh really?
Yeah.
It's good that you man. It's like being able to have even those type of conversations is just so important. So I mean, yeah, that's just so important to do. What has been maybe one thing that maybe the students have taught you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They've challenged me, actually. So speaking of, I always go back to the refugee thing, but my first year.
Can you get another example, please? I just get that. No, I'm totally kidding.
Oh man! But my first year, so my students, I was telling them that exactly the same thing that I told you about bias. Like we were approaching this, and we were reading the book "Refugee" by Alan Kratz. So if anyone has read that, that's kind of what we based our like novel around, and then we kind of looked at articles based on those three. So it's like the Jewish refugee crisis of the 40s, and then the Iraq War and Cuban crisis. So all three refugee crises like intertwine. It's really cool.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's a good book. So we were able to talk about like the Holocaust, and we were able to talk about Cuba, and so it's a big mix. And I said, the same thing about bias, like bias towards this. I used to, teach a lot of refugee children. They're really close to my heart. And they were kind of like, why don't you still work with them? Like, why we wouldn't have anybody here? And it's true, it's Meridian. It's pretty white, and it's pretty, middle class range. And I said, well, you're right. I really don't work with them anymore. And so I then spent like about a year searching for a way to do that again in my life.
Oh.
So they've challenged me too, and kind of like, and I always tell my 8th graders that every year now. I'm like, guys, you push me. This is how this class did it, and you guys are gonna push me. And
definitely.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's so good, Julia. I'm so happy for you. I feel like just seeing like I don't know, just being in your classroom, like I feel like I would just be like there, like just be like, oh man, she's good.
I hope so. Yeah. Sometimes they just stare and fall asleep, but most of the time
you're like, are you still with me? Hello. Yeah. Oh man. So we met as you said in mass. Mm-hmm. How has your faith kind of developed kind of throughout? I mean, not giving, you don't have to give me your whole life, like faith life, but just maybe in the last couple or 4 or 5 years. Yeah. Obviously with your travels, you being with a teacher, how has your faith kind of changed or grown, or or whatever, in those different phases of your life?
Yeah. So I think probably one of the biggest pushes has been my youngest brother. I have 2 brothers whom I love dearly. My older younger brother, he's atheist and kind of went through that journey. And if he's listening to this, I love you, Adam, and I'm 100% good with how you are. Yeah. But so kind of seeing him go through that journey, I realized that I wanted my youngest brother to stay in the faith and to really know his faith and all that. Right. So his was kind of the biggest push for me to become more involved in my faith, was like I got to be kind of a role model here. How do I do that? And so I started learning things about and being less like kind of about my own faith.
Right. Man, that makes all the difference. Because I feel like it's so easy for any of us to just be because even if it's something rather that we grew up with, that we just kind of grow accustomed to, but it makes all the difference once you start taking the time to actually find out, like, well, I mean, who you are essentially, and why you do the things you do, or why you believe the things that you believe. So that's so interesting. How so I know when you were in Spain, how was it over there? Because it's pretty, and I don't know, I'm sure it's probably changed, but from the last that I've known, it's pretty Catholic, right?
It's like Catholic in appearance, but not really inside.
Really?
Yeah. I was definitely, I mean, in the town that I lived in had plenty of young people, but I was the only one going to mass. There was one other girl. That's how many, they were like, oh, you should connect with her. You should connect with her. Like, everyone would say it to me because she was the only other young person.
That's funny.
Yeah. So it's definitely an older church. Now, they have a lot of cool, like, traditions that are Catholic.
Right.
All the, like, Holy Week stuff is amazing. And, even, throughout the year, there are these holy days and they're like holidays there. So they're off and they have big processions with, Big Mary and, all this stuff. But when it comes down to the actual practice, not so much.
Wow, I didn't know that. Was that challenging for you? Or, I mean, you just mentioned you went to mass anyway, but was it difficult maybe not having necessarily that community except for that one girl?
Yeah, she was off at college, so I didn't even... Yeah, no, it was kind of lonely, I would say. I met an older friend, but I was kind of awkward and shy anyway, so it was like... Oh,
at the time, yeah.
Yeah, and the friends I did have were from the school, and they were definitely more on, like, the, agnostic side, and so it was a little bit more challenging to, like, connect with people.
Huh.
And... Yeah, it was, I always went to mass. I did a lot of daily mass, and it was also honestly something to do, a way to be involved in the community.
Right.
It was authentic feeling. But, with 80-year-olds and their fur coats.
Oh, fancy.
Every 80-year-old lady in Spain has a fur coat.
Really?
I don't know if it's real or not. I can't tell.
Wow, that sounds fancy.
Yeah, they're tacones. Like.
So if I see you in a fur coat one of these days, I'll be like, it finally caught up.
I'm moving to Spain.
Yeah.
I could fit in.
That's so funny. So I have the 3 questions that I ask all my guests. Just as, I don't know, I think it's cool to, once we have like a lot of friends on the podcast to kind of look back and see what everybody says.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to be quiet when you answer. It's not like that I don't want to say anything necessarily, but I just kind of want to let your answer resonate.
Okay. And
then feel free to kind of develop it as much as you want. It's not like a one-word answer, so feel free to dive in.
Okay.
So the first question is, what makes a true friendship?
I think a true friendship is when you're able to like feel vulnerable around somebody. If you can share like your vulnerability, in whatever mood you're in or whatever, you don't feel like the need to be a certain way always around them. Like you might feel like I got to look polished around my coworkers or, even acquaintances. I want to look a certain way. But by the time you get to like authentic friendship, you're like, whatever I look like is what I look like today. And I'm just going to be who I am and just, I can put out anything.
Second question is, who is one person that has impacted your life in a positive way and how?
I always go back with my throwback. So it's my grandfather. He's the one I wrote all my essays about back in high school. But he had a massive stroke when he was, I want to say he was 45-ish. So he had 2 little daughters. And his whole, like, one side of his body was paralyzed. And was paralyzed for his whole life. Now, he managed to get to walk again with a cane. And he could actually drive because they put the handrail thing on the other side. So he was able to drive later in life. But it really, really just took away the life that he was used to for a long time. But by the time that I got to know him, which was, he was, I want to say in his 70s, I think, when I was born. Maybe late 60s. He was really all about like caring for the people around him. So he kind of took all that, but it didn't make him bitter or resentful. He had a friend that he used to this awful. So the friend was blind, and he also had, I don't know what they're called, but they're like little things in your throat. And at the time, the only way to get rid of them, polyps, I think they were called polyps. The only way to get rid of them was with like a lead ball that you had to like swing down someone's throat. And he would do that for his friend, you know, he would like every week or whatever. And he would take us to get McDonald's, you know, in the morning and before church, and, you know, drive us there. And he was always just looking out for other people. And even after that, you know, he'd have several smaller strokes when he got older, but he would still, you know, be looking out for other people, and used to tell us like scary stories in the basement about why we shouldn't go to the lower basement, because it's the Midwest. You always have a basement below the basement.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, tornadoes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I definitely admire him, and my grandma too, for, you know, she was a nurse and she really stepped in and took care of the family.
You know what? I totally forgot when you were speaking. Like, your grandma is pretty badass.
Yeah, she is.
I was like, oh man, yeah, oh man, she survived. I mean, now 2 pandemics, right?
Yeah, I think she was born just at the tail end of the last one.
Wow.
Yeah, and she was a nurse in World War II, and yeah, lots of stuff.
Oh man, I feel like I'm gonna edit this before in the conversation, but we've spoken about how your grandma's essentially lived 2 separate lives completely, because all her friends and, you know, the people that she grew up with, her family members, like her, I mean, immediate, other than obviously her grandchildren now and kids, they've all passed away. So yeah. I just think that's so, I don't know, to live 2 lives in one, and to be able to see kind of that change, or that generation, I can't say that word, generational change.
Yeah.
It must be incredible, like the story she must have.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she's 99. She'll be 100 in
Wow.
February.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and she's lived through a lot, and, you know, like, I think it has been a challenge to, like, you see, like, family members go before you or friends go before you, and you kind of, yeah, but she's lived, I think, just like a fulfilling life, it seems like. You know, she helped others. She was a nurse. I said nurses are teachers. She was a nurse, and, you know, just did a lot of amazing things. She traveled a lot too. She didn't get married till 35, so I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah.
Still got 5 years.
Ooh.
And you know, had 2 kids and took care of her husband, and so she's done a lot of really, like, brave things.
Right.
But yeah, to live 100 years is kind of,
I might need to have her on the podcast.
I know, you should. We should. Somebody needs to record her. My brother was gonna do it.
Oh yeah.
Hint, hint.
You're like, I said my brother. All right. So 3rd question. What is one piece of advice you would give to the youngest member of your family?
Okay, well, I'm going to think about these 2 little baby boys that were just born. They're twins, identical twins. I think they're like 6 months old now. Maybe not quite that old. Anyway, advice for them would say it's okay to move out of where you are into a new experience, and to, like, embrace new challenges. You don't have to stay in a box your whole life. You can move boxes.
Oof. That's really good. Oh man. Well, those are the 3 questions that I have.
Nice.
What do you think? It wasn't too difficult, right?
No. It was easy.
Nah.
Easy time.
Yeah. No, that was great. Well, thank you again for being here. I'm sure, I mean, I don't know, but I would love to have you on again in the future. And yeah, well, thank you again, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the More Than Disc podcast. Before you go, don't forget to give us a quick rating and review, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and visit downwithdisc.com to stay up to date with the latest information about the show. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and we'll catch you on the next one.